Welcome, everyone. It's the Crypto Lark. Super excited to have back on the show today, friend of the channel, Tio the Arcane Bear. How's it going, man?
Good. Pleasure to be here with you again, Lark, with the Lark family, one of the hardest working men in the crypto showbiz. I'm so excited to be on with you this evening. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Now, what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about portfolios, building portfolios during a time of crisis, how to survive, and not just survive, but to thrive during a time of economic turmoil, during this time of crisis that we're seeing right now. We're going to be talking about portfolio advice, cash, gold, crypto stocks, land, food, all that fun kind of stuff. So stick around. It's going to be a great chat. Now, I think let's go ahead and start off with just jumping straight in here. And I want to discuss the idea that we're in this crisis right now, but some people are getting crushed by it. Inevitably, it always happens. There's a large percentage of people who will not respond and they'll just get crushed by these kind of crises. However, there is a certain amount of people that will thrive during this crisis, that will see that opportunity and seize it. So, could you speak a little bit on that to start off with?
It's one of these ideas where we want to expand as the world starts to contract. At first, it's going to be this is going to be difficult on all of us. It looks like we're moving into a depression. There are certain verticals in the industry which have gotten totally wiped out, and they may never come back, like the travel industry, which applies to a whole field of other aspects of real estate, and the way we kind of live our lives has potentially been wiped out for the next 18 months to 5 years minimum. So readdressing how we build around that is going to provide a lot of opportunity for those who are willing to pivot and catch the new waves that are starting to show up in this, I guess, in these kind of these chaotic oceans. So how you do that, how you manage not just your time and your energy, but your financial portfolio, and how you build something that can generally be able to withstand all the punches that are coming through like multiple decades, understanding that these things are not so infrequent, so to be prepared for them, because this will not be the last one either. Like there'll probably be some other crazy thing that happens 25 or 10, 15 years from now that's not too dissimilar to what we're going through now.
You know, diversification. I know we speak about it a lot, but it's so incredibly important. And how diversification of assets that are not correlated with each other. I mean, if you just have stocks, right, and the entire stock market goes down, well, you're not diversified. Your entire portfolio is going down. When we talk about diversification, we're talking about, okay, my stocks might be down, but my gold's doing okay. My cash is still fine. My Bitcoin's okay, right, in these situations. But I feel like there's just this incredible lack of financial education amongst the general population. I almost feel to the point of like it's a conspiracy that people are not educated on how to handle their own, not just about the big financial stuff of the fractional reserve and the Federal Reserve and all that crazy stuff. No, I'm talking about just personal finances, let alone, right, how to actually build a portfolio, how to diversify, how to manage your finances. There's just this crazy lack of education around this.
Yeah, you know, I think even a lot of people grow up with the idea that capitalism is a bad thing. There's a few quotes that, like, if you're not a socialist up until you're 25, you're crazy, and if you're still a socialist after you're a certain age, like you're still crazy, basically. And I think there's a certain amount of like romanticism about being younger, about the kind of like the evils of money or something like this. But as we get older, you realize that business is often the symptom. Money is from creating something beneficial as a service or a product for your community and for the scale at large, whether you're providing something that used to be much more expensive at one vendor is cheaper at the other, so they switch, and then you gain market share over these types of offerings to your community, essentially. So I think when we're younger and we're a bit more naive about the process of money, it's harder to get that education. So some of I think the most basic stuff, like budgeting, having a diversified portfolio, is asking questions in a broader perspective of, what does wealth mean to me? And not just in a financial aspect, but maybe you're really into painting, because there's a certain area of life that we often neglect, I think, because of this lack of financial education, which is just the broader spectrum questions about, what is a rich aspect of my life? Am I going to have Am I going to feel better of myself because I spent the last 6 months playing music, as in comparison with just, whatever floats your boat. For me, it's music. So I think when we do that, we can start to realize we have a lot going for us already, whether it's time and the assets we have, like, oh, we've got charisma, intelligence. I can build chairs, I can build tables, I can do stucco, I can do everything. I can paint, I can wire the house. So having this core skill set as you get older gives you the leverage basically to keep moving on in the world. So even if it's not from a financial backing, when you start to look at concepts like wealth, and you break it from a more philosophical level, I think it's a much more useful skill set. And when you realizing that the symptom is often this more diversified portfolio. So if we look at some specifics of it, for example, I, for the last few years, had always said I was not interested in commercial real estate or single family homes unless you own that home and you have food and water on it, or at least can garden on it. Because I think I've thought for a long time we're going to be moving into more distributed systems, whether it's just more distributed governments or governance, monetary systems, things like Bitcoin. I think that overall we're seeing a trend towards distribution of the world of things, basically,
Mm-hmm.
right? So instead of printing something in China, there's over the next years, there's going to be a huge wave of adoption of 3D printing where you can probably
It's
just
gonna
go down to
break
your local.
everything.
So learning how to profit from these times is being able to see those changes as they come and pivot into the waves, and not try to fight the wave. So I think when we ask these broader, like, umbrella questions of like what's wealth, then we can much more easily see the changes coming and embrace them. You don't want to be Kodak, someone bringing you the digital camera and twice ignoring having like the genius right like bestowed to you, right? So you want to be able to pivot. You want to be able to look at a bad investment and move into a good one. So I think the basics of financial education, ones that people can adopt really quickly, is it sounds, I'm sure it's going to sound kind of pious, but like, meditate on the ideas of what wealth means to you and what richness means to you, and then you come up with a very different answer about how you can build your portfolio. So I figured, and I guess it's very poignant now, is that it's very unlikely that a lot of the real estate market is going to do very well. This living in big cities might start to decrease because of this as well. People are going to be looking for more rural area, places where they can garden. So
Technology is
noticing,
making it possible. This is the thing.
yeah,
You don't
yeah,
have to live in a city to work anymore. I'm in New Zealand, you're in Costa Rica right now. We're having a video talking about financial education and portfolio building. You don't have to live in the middle of a city center anymore. If that's your thing, that's cool, but it's no longer a necessity.
yeah. And well, not even just a necessity. I think it's going to become the opposing trend. I really believe we're going to move into this distributed center area where like why not have a garden outside? It's very fulfilling. It makes your life richer to be able to have access to working this time. And this was what we always would have dreamed, that having a deflationary technology show up would be good for, would be that we have more time to be able to, let's say, I'm going to use the word pontificate right now, because sometimes I try to swing way outside of my league, but that's okay. We need that room, right? Confidence with opinion, but really, really easy to let those opinions go. But um, when we look at these changes, okay, so investing in commercial real estate probably isn't going to be a good idea. Looking for more rural real estate that produces maybe lemons or different types of avocados in
Mm-hmm.
Central America, property that's actually producing physical goods, I think in the long term is always going to be a win. And I think that moving forward, there's going to be a big trend into the agricultural space at a distributed level, because it's just a much stronger system. That always, we're big proponents of cryptocurrency because the technology is mimicking something that we know inherently from nature, which is that you don't just build the strength all into one thing. You give a myriad of different options, and from there you get a much stronger center. Even as humans, we're constantly given the opportunity to live a life and then die, so that not any one of us is in charge, but the genetic sequence of the human species is what gets stronger, not like an individual. So the system is built, I think, a lot of the times to favor smaller functional systems. So I think that's what we're seeing right now. So to profit from this, to build into these ideas, is, I think, it just takes the adaptive mind to try not to get too caught up in the life that we were living. I know it's hard. Like I'm
Oh
having
yeah.
a hard time, like letting go, being like, oh, that life we were just like, I was just in Bali and we were dancing and we were like, and we're going to the spa and we're going to ice baths. Everything was just amazing, and we'll be grateful for that. But that's not coming back. So we
Dude,
have to work in what's arriving
let
on
me
our
just come in
doorstep.
on something here, because before we move on too far in the conversation, I did want to just bring up something here, and I think you've actually kind of brought up some interesting points here. And I think one of the things really comes down to what I'm going to name perhaps your life portfolio, maybe your emotional portfolio or whatever it is. And you talked about music and stuff like this. That's part of your life portfolio, right? And I think this is something that's really, really important, and not a lot of people take enough time to really think about, because money is great. Money's cool. Money's, a great tool, but money in of itself is not going to make you happy. I've met lots of millionaires and billionaires in my life, and I've met some that are fantastically happy and some that are fantastically miserable. So money as the medium is not going to increase your happiness. It can get you more things. That's great, but it's actually going to increase your emotional wealth, right? And how are you building out your life portfolio? So if your life portfolio is only how am I going to get money? I'm going to buy more stocks, buy more gold, invest in more stuff, work more hours, get more money, da 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 da. Your portfolio is all out of whack. You have to bring in those things that actually give you joy of life. You get one spin around that we know of for certain on this crazy rock spinning through space. Make sure that you have a diversified life portfolio. Do music if music's your thing. Do languages if language is your thing. Go to the gym and plant a garden. And I actually want to take just a second here to flip it back to the audience for a second. For all of you who've stuck around to the chat this long so far, I really want to know, what is your, I guess, life portfolio balanced out? Are you growing vegetables in your garden? If you're not, that's something really, really amazing. I know not everyone has land where they can do that, but if you have a patch outside, you can grow some of your own vegetables. It's incredibly rewarding. It's a lot easier than most people think
Do
that it
it.
is. I'm growing kale. It's kind of the end of the season now, so I'm going more of the things that'll go over winter here. But we had a great season. We had lots of corn and tomatoes and all this fun kind of stuff. I've just pulled some great yellow tomatoes and some cucumbers out of the garden this morning. It's amazing having that food that you can have, and it's a great process. It's very relaxing to be able to do these things. So definitely hit us up down below and let us know in the comment section, what is your life portfolio like? Now, all of that being said, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of the money, the dirty, dirty money. So I
Oh, if
want
we're gonna start with the dirty money, we should probably start with gold, and
yes.
then we can. Well, cash is probably the dirtiest, actually. We'll start with cash.
Just just before you jump into cash, I want to say one thing. With cash, I always imagine that somebody has put it in their butt and put it on their balls. I mean, that's what I assume has happened to all cash, straight up.
Yeah, I heard a good one. Cash is trash. That's what that was. I think that's what Ray Dalio
Ray
says.
Dalio said
Cash is
that.
trash.
All right, share your
Um,
insights on cash with us.
if you've ever operated a business, you need liquid capital. Owning a portfolio that's fairly liquid as well can work in that arena and for your favor as well. So if you can park funds in certain areas where they're as liquid as cash, it's as good, right? The idea of cash is just really the liquidity of the asset that you're looking for. So if there's, for instance, one of the banks I used to bank with, you could use gold as a store of value because they would just sell it in and out of your safety deposit box. So if you ever wanted to take and sell some of your gold position, they would just put it as cash back in your savings and debit account, essentially, so you could swipe your gold card. So we've had these different interpretations of how we use currency and money. So cash is just another version of how we can use that currency. Bitcoin is one of these hedges in the portfolio for exactly what's happening right now. We have a massive amount of money being printed, and we don't see an end to it in sight. The market is somehow going green on millions of job losses. Like the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we know sectors have been totally wiped out, but Amazon's going up. Like
Market's
that's
up.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and in reality, there's some sensibility to this too, because look, the S&P 500 is not the Sun and Pops 500 like greatest stores in Kentucky, right? It's the greatest businesses in all of the United States, and some of them are doing well right now. These costs are going down. The economy is contracting essentially, right? So that's why oil's falling. No one's traveling. All the prices are going into total dismay, and there's a lot of fear and sentiment. So we're going to see, certain assets are going to start to collapse here very specifically, but some of them are designed to do well. So Bitcoin and gold were always designed to be a hedge as, real money. I guess Bitcoin's initial, I think, prize for those of us that have used it is just it's super fucking easy, is in comparison if you've ever had to deal with the banks at the global scale. They're
Mm-hmm.
such dicks, and it's so annoying to do. You're like, wait, you can tell me I can just send this and it goes.
It's
Doesn't
gone.
matter how long it takes. Like, it doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as I put the fucking right address, it's gonna get there, right? 3 days, 4 days, I wouldn't even care. It was gonna cost me $10, $50. Well, great, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, especially as a global payments settlement system. That in itself is fucking huge. Like Bitcoin as a settlement system over the next few years could go astronomical. So it's worth keeping in your portfolio. But at the same point, I try to be fairly sensible, and one of the reasons we use the arcane bear as an emblem for the investor mentality we try to take is that you need to be always prepared for a 6 to 18-month winter where things are difficult, and at the end of that winter come out swinging and trying to grab up as many assets as you can, whether that's pivoting into building new businesses as an equity partner because you're young and fucking vehemently like hissing at the teeth to find like stuff to get into, and that's where we're at. So I think this is a great time to realize that nobody else is really in charge here. So whatever you want to see happen, like start trying to build those things, because this is when like new legends of and titans are basically born in this
Incredible
type.
opportunity right now.
Yeah,
Incredible
exactly.
opportunity potential.
So aside from being well established, like things like gold or Bitcoin in the portfolio just allow you to make it through the winter, and the worse it gets, this offsets the losses in the other aspects of the portfolio. For me, the real estate investment was always about food and water, and that I knew I had consistency. I'm like, great, everything could shut down. Like my bills here are nothing. Like I have no bills. It's super easy when you have no bills, right? So part of budgeting is also being able to leverage your ability to remove costs from your life as much as possible. That way, if you need to leverage your cash into one area, and then for those of you that are really savvy, understand that the banks are trying to just throw money at people right now. If you have a good business idea that you think might thrive, it's not always a bad idea to take on debt when they're just giving it away kind of freely. Like maybe you can, if you're smart and savvy, not financial advice, like don't take out debt,
Yeah,
because
none of this
like
financial advice,
I'm
guys.
just
Just
I'm
two
just saying
dudes
that
riffing
there's
about
yeah
financial education.
there's a bunch of random ways that one can play with the system here, and it could work to your benefit. Being savvy in these times and kind of following what interests you, I think most importantly is really can really pay off.
Hey, I want to
um
bring up a point here real quick because I think it's really interesting for a lot of people out there in the audience. Is actually, I guess, we could call it country arbitrage, if you will, because you're not Costa Rican, but you're living in Costa Rica, and I want to just underline for people that if you live in a city that's too damn expensive or too damn oppressive or too damn whatever, you don't have to stay there. The world is so open for opportunity. I mean, maybe it's a little hard right now at this particular week, but in the very near future, mobility, it's an amazing thing. You can go and live in somewhere like Costa Rica, right? There are visa opportunities all over the world for young, talented people who are entrepreneurs, or if you just have enough money, you can actually get visas, invest in land in countries all over the world, right? So you could sell your house in wherever it is that you don't like living and go and get a house somewhere else, and they'll give you a passport or a residence visa, and you can go live in that place. And if you have an online skill, you can go do that there and have lower living costs and a better quality of life potentially. This is something, again, we could go back to our life portfolio equation there, and this is something that really
It's just
factors into that.
it's so much easier if you're not an American. And for this is so this that's pretty much for everyone that's not an American. If you're not an American, it's really easy to open an offshore bank account, probably not have to pay taxes in your country if you go to a different country, and be able to get cool things like residency and different passports, like you're saying, as long as you're not an American.
Well, I know I've
They
known
have.
some.
I
I've
feel
known.
sorry for you guys. You have so
Yeah.
much. It's so much more difficult. Everyone else, Australia, New Zealand, is like you guys can have an easy time. You can find tax shelters super easily. But if you're an American passport holder, it's very difficult to do.
I've known Americans that have given up their passports. They've gone to some of the Caribbean islands, for example, have pretty
Oh,
easy
good.
visa
That's a nice
programs. You
choice
can
as
get, I
well.
think, I can't remember the exact, like $200,000 or something. You can get a, don't quote me on the
Go
number, right?
kids.
But approximately around that, you go to like Saint Kitts and Nevis, so you can get a
Yeah,
passport there, right? And there's a couple other countries that also have very reasonable regimes in terms of that. So that's something you guys can
Panama.
factor
Yeah,
into your life portfolio here. Now, I want to go back to the topic of gold a little bit here, Tio, because I think this is very, very interesting. Now, I don't personally have any gold. I've discussed on chair recently. I would like to get like a trinket amount of gold, but you actually had a
yeah.
decent percentage of your portfolio. I think in your newsletter the other day, and by the way, excellent newsletter. There's going to be a link down below to Tio's newsletter. It's really great value. There's a lot of interesting insights in it, but I think, was it 8% of your
Yeah,
portfolio
I'm
was in gold?
look, I'm let's go with I'm stupid and stubborn. I'm that's probably the easiest way to explain some of these things. I move slowly. My mentors do the same thing too. There's a lot of the times if I'd put everything into Bitcoin, I would have smashed it out of the park. But that's just not my style. I don't like to include like I just like to have a simpler life. I technically Bitcoin and gold act as a very similar adjunct. It's like if shit's hitting the fucking fan and things are going very poorly, these are safety nets. We brought up living in Costa Rica, being able. So, for instance, I have a nice. Well, it doesn't matter, but I'll explain the reason why being able to have gold around you is functional, right? If say I'm like walking around, like I lose my wallet, I've lost my credit cards, my identification, I'm like in a hotel, all I've got is my passport. But if you have a chunk of gold on you, you can use that and and it's accepted fairly readily. Like even just south of where I lived here in Costa Rica, there's enough gold that comes out of one of the creeks where you can actually go at like for most of the town and you can pay for things with chunks of gold there still. It's like super wild.
Wow, that's
But
pretty cool, actually.
what we forget is that it's the utility of the asset under certain scenarios. So living in a foreign country, the same reason why I have 10,000 liters of water storage and we have a private well here and a 30-foot tall gate and a guard tower is because these provide me the option of if shit hits the fan. So I like I said, I'm kind of stubborn and stupid. So I've been trying to prepare for what might be a big economic collapse for the last 6 or 7 years. I had boxes of seeds in my freezer. I consider these all kind of like options. Hopefully, we didn't have to use them. It's like, okay, well, it looks like these options are going to be the things that help save the portfolio, right? Because I got a few of the businesses I was working on. Oh, bye. there's there's a bunch of money just thrown into the wind, basically. So you have to be able to take that. So being able to build a base essentially of something that doesn't change too much, that it can act as a stability. Gold fits that directive. It's stayed a functioning money in our society for a really long time. We can assume it will stay a type of functioning money in our society for much longer. One of my good parts of Nassim Taleb's book in Anti-Fragile, he's like, well, what's going to remain the same? Like a lot of the times once we've had some, like look how long we've had the chair. The chair has only advanced so much. It's still got like we can swivel and we can go up and down and stuff, but it's still pretty much the same chair. So the evolution of things doesn't always progress exponentially. Like the chair didn't exponentially change in its function as what it was supposed to do. So gold in the portfolio is just designed to be a heavy asset that's hard to liquidate, so that it acts more as the bottom of the portfolio than anything.
Mm.
For me. Yeah, it's like what you call like it's like a happy rock bottom. You're like, oh fuck, we're at rock bottom. I guess it's time.
Time to
Shit.
get the gold out.
Yeah. That's really I think the best analogy. It's a rock bottom, and not like it's not meant to be used. It's you don't want to go that low technically. So you build I was when I first was starting, I built that as a base. So it's like I'm not supposed to touch it. I wouldn't even it's a last chance to dance type of scenario.
Hmm.
Bitcoin has a lot more utility than that nowadays. I always have physical silver on hand for that same reason. It's just in the event of a change in financial systems, any type of utility in currency and money is to the advantage, especially if you're in a foreign country. It's just it makes sense to do, and and to have these things buried and know how to play the game. I guess part of it is about security, right? If you hold it and you own it, you also have to motherfucking protect it. Like, let's
Yep.
be clear here. I did say 30-foot tall gate and guard tower at the beginning of this, right? Like it was an adjunct. It was, there are things that go into building that type of, that core baseline. So again, I don't think I'm smart by doing that. I think I'm one of the people probably and I look at myself, I was like, oh, I went a little over the deep end. But for me, I was always interested in growing food and having water anyway. So this type of financial direction, it's just part of your personality. So I think you should always build to what suits your personality. Like a lot of people aren't as physically focused in a single area as I am. They're happier to have been traveling and stuff like that. I like being rooted in one area, and building here. Like we have a beverage company now that is for the first time ever, I can actually finally I can buy my drinks at the store because there's nobody here. Every time I go, the fridge is stocked full. I'm like, great. That's great. I'm so glad I can finally buy my drinks. This is such a great occasion.
Well,
So
that's actually another interesting area to explore because the entrepreneurship opportunities. Never. It is 2020, people. It is 2020. There has never been more opportunity to get out there and grind and hustle and make opportunities for yourselves. There is just an unbelievable explosion of things happening around the world in terms of new opportunities. And here you are in Costa Rica, and you went and you opened up a beverage company to introduce beverages that weren't really in the Costa Rican market. You saw that opportunity and you took it. And for most people, there's opportunities like this all over the place. And there's so many people go, "Oh, I've got an idea to make a lot of money, or I could start a business." Just go out and do it. Go out and do it, man. You only got
yeah,
one life. You've got these opportunities. You have to take them. You have to take them. It's so important to actually get in there and find these things you like doing, find something
yeah,
you're
and be
passionate about and
patient.
chase it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, let's the beverage company is a great highlight as an example. I started that one just because I love the flavor. It's so much better than kombucha. It's if you ever come to Costa Rica and try them, you'll be like, this is one of the best fucking drinks I've ever had. That's how I feel about them. So it started from a passion from just the flavor that I like to make. It's like art when you make something like that, when you create a product. But that was 7 or 8 years ago. But when I look at other mentors, people that have worked in, say, like if you're creating a beverage product, you need to be able to put 10 to 15 years before you start to see a real
Mm.
like a tail effect, where you see it start to like really grow almost at an exponential rate. If you're interested in scaling things like that, I didn't realize that you could make tens or hundreds of millions of dollars from a beverage company. I don't know what type of possibilities the future holds. Like my beverage company will be able to remain functional because I will always be around to buy it. Like I fucking love it. And I looked in the fridge today and there wasn't as many there. So I'm not the only one buying it either, right? I'm like, okay, so other people in the community are buying it. So even if we're just a
Well, so long
community
as you're
based,
buying your own
no more
products,
travelers or
you're going to
anything.
be okay.
No, but no, like I mean, to be more aggressive about to lean into what's coming, because
Yeah.
building a beverage company does not lean into what's coming. Being focused on adapting to these changes, like in the world of 3D printing, whether it's investing, building, growing, bringing your skill set through media, marketing, advertising, consulting, whatever you happen to do, focus on these areas. Like I bet even right now, big deals are being closed between countries for PPE equipment and all like different testing stuff. I was messaging the Ministry of Health of Costa Rica. I was trying to get messages out to governors. Like this is a situation where you just like go all hands on deck and you basically start messaging a bunch of people and see like, well, where can you help? And generally from there, that's how you close clients and contracts and try to build something too. So, being able to move quickly, think into creatively, and collaborate in times like this. There's so much opportunity in within crisis, and you don't focus on it from a money aspect at first. Focus on it just trying to help get things done. And
The
at the
money
other
will
side
come.
of this, yeah, because this is going to take a few years. Like if you're going to have to figure this out, we're all going to have to sweat right now for the next 2 years. Like this is going to take some serious elbow grease from people all around the world. This is a hugely climactic event. I don't think people have really recognized what's going to come down the pipeline from countries like India and China being shut down for multiple months. What that does to our supply chain, not just in food but in everyday knickknacks and gadgets. Like
Hmm.
there's no Samsung new phone coming out, maybe for years now. People need to address what's coming now and start to build for what's coming later. And this, I think being acutely aware of it, listening to shows like Lark. I looked at your guest list. You guys have you have so many great speakers on. Getting just a really well-rounded thought process going here, and when you're listening, realizing that everybody's wrong.
Hmm.
Everybody's always been wrong at some point, right? So think critically. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and try to be able to make sure you can always make it through 6 to 18 months of fucking difficult times. And this is one of those prime examples where we have to start focusing on, if the supply chain breaks, do you have a small garden? Does your neighbors have gardens? Because I think we're going to have a moment where we do, if we go to a smaller scale of governance, or like a more distributed governance, this is going to take people really working together. Like we need to embrace the Chinese people. Like maybe screw the Chinese government, but
Oh
the
yeah.
Chinese
Screw the
people,
government, but
right?
yeah.
All the people need to let go and work together. This is going to, otherwise this could be a real breakdown moment for us. This should be a moment that lifts us up and inspires us to work together more creatively, because this is really what I think it calls for. That's
It's essentially we are. Those are great, beautiful thoughts, by the way. But we are a global community. This is the thing, and our governments betray us constantly by selling us out to the corporations and putting us against each other internally and externally. And we really are just one giant community of people. And these smaller communities and initiatives and really just being involved, that's really amazing stuff. And if you actually look again, we'll go back to my idea of the life portfolio. If you ever look, you ever done any research into the blue zones?
yeah, this is where people live on average over like 100 years, the centurions,
That's right.
right?
There's one in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
in around this area.
yeah, that's it. Around that, that's it. I thought it was around where you live. And so these one of the things, aside from having great fresh food, right, eating really good food, and of course staying physically active by working in your garden or going on walks or whatever it might be, one of the other things is actually having this kind of purpose, this reason to get up every morning, and this kind of this sense that there's so much for you to do and to give to the world, and getting out there and giving that and being part of a community, right, being part of people who will watch out for each other, and having that kind of that social network of people who will support you when you're down, you'll support them when they're down, and you'll check up on each other and hold each other accountable for continuing to live life and all this stuff. That is, again, a key part of the life portfolio. So if you feel like you're lacking in that area, change it, get out there, make new connections. If you're surrounded here by a bunch of toxic people who are just drinking too much and just wasting their lives away watching TV or whatever, that doesn't need to be your life. That doesn't need to be your life. Find a network that will support you and that you can support and you can thrive in that community, because we all have gifts to give to the world. And if you don't feel like you have gifts to give to the world right now, you're just not looking hard enough. You haven't met the right people that will open you up to bring those gifts out to the world.
Yeah, so well spoken, Lark. The sentiment of, again, the money is not going to change your existential aspects of life. So the more you can build in the purpose of what you're doing to be fulfilling for you, to be part of your peace and part of your happiness with the way you move with the world. And I think more importantly than ever, that ability to be able to bring your neighbor some rice, that old mentality, like, oh, you need something, you ask an extra neighbor if they got a cup of milk or whatever. We're going to need to kind of invigorate that mentality that we had, where we could rely on one another at a more close related basis. We've kind of lost that, and I think this is good. This is prime time for people to be like, oh yeah, we're all one species on this planet. Hey, it's
It's
pretty
true.
special.
It's true. It's true. We're all the same kind of weird ape creature. Now, the final conversation point I want to talk about today is about cryptos. We talked about cash, talked about gold, we talked about life portfolios and all
Our
this fun
favorite.
stuff. But
This is our favorite,
we're
the
going to
best
talk
for
about
last.
exactly. Now, obviously, Bitcoin's 2/3 of the entire cryptocurrency market cap. Bitcoin sucks all the air out of the room. Bitcoin gets all the big investor money. Bitcoin gets a lot of the retail money. Bitcoin gets most of the infrastructure built around it. But we are seeing increasingly cryptocurrencies that are not named Bitcoin catching up and really pushing a lot of value forward. We actually just had a moment, I think it was today, where, or yeah, it happened yesterday, but basically the value transfer across the Ethereum network has hit parity with value transfer across the Bitcoin network. Now, Bitcoin is on a downtrend in terms of value transfer, and Ethereum is on an uptrend in terms of value transfer. So let's talk a little bit about crypto in a portfolio as part of a wider portfolio, right?
Yeah.
Not just your crypto portfolios that we're talking about here, but Bitcoin is really part of a wider portfolio. And any cryptocurrencies that you think are really interesting that people should consider or take a look at in their crypto portfolios as well.
So there's two aspects to that one. First off, I think you're on a very solid ground there with Ethereum. I think Ethereum has a lot of potential moving forward. In general, these systems can eat a lot of the old systems, like
Yeah.
probably all of them. So in terms of value of equity of real estate, I mean, who cares about equity in Carnival cruise ships anymore? That's not worth anything. But equity in other companies that are doing well and having them on an open, transparent chain where you can trade 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no stops, trading on a global, almost standardized system. These things, this is probably what blockchain will bear the future of over the next 10 years of financial change. Whether it is a system like Ethereum or not, I think is irrelevant. We can see that Ethereum has potentials to do things like that, in titles and deeds for property. So I think Ethereum is a good choice. I also think a lot of the other baby Bitcoins are smart choices. I always keep like a few grand of like Digibyte and Litecoin, just sitting and locked. I can't touch it. It's just, I think it's easier to bet on the whole of the technology to some degree instead of just one of them,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because it's more and more we do see platform basis, but I'm the type of person who invests in the concept, not so much the brand. I like the idea of distribution in general. So if I were to think that just one version of Bitcoin would be the best one, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a bunch of them, so that if one of them breaks down or has any issues, we have variations of them that kind of keep the whole system running. I think adoption is another great thing too. We know all around the world, these countries don't always want to work together seamlessly. So if they want to adopt something, like if Venezuela just all of a sudden wanted to start adopting Dash or something, or Digibyte is total speculation. They're basically Bitcoin. It's the underwritten technology is not too dissimilar. I know a bunch of developers would probably throw cups at me and tomatoes for saying that. So I apologize, but to me, the concept is really the broader approach. I'm actually interested in Matic. That one's kept my interest for a long time because of how it operates
Mm-hmm.
with Ethereum. I think second layer solutions are always going to be important because the internet allowed for companies like Amazon to grow and build, right? So you're looking for second layer build outs of the technology. Like the original internet wasn't designed to sell stuff. right? It was designed to move information around.
Exactly.
So the fact that it became a marketplace was basically like an app that we built on top of this TCP/IP protocol that became a functional value creator. So in terms of being able to build on, with Ethereum, I think Matic has something interesting. Like a very speculative play. I don't hold very much of it, but a little bit. I think it could do well. But other than that, I'm not really diversified outside of those like five. So
Nice. Well, that's a good little stack of different cryptos there, and I think that you know you've got your reasoning behind each one, and I think that's one of the important things to look at this and go, I know exactly why I hold this, and this is very interesting to me because of this reason, right? And uh, I think five's actually not a bad number. I've got quite a few more than five, but I honestly think that I've got too many, and a lot of them I've got sales targets set on them, so it's not like they're going to be
well,
some super long term holds. But I'll just tell you real quick, I've only got a couple of cryptocurrencies that I consider as really long term holds because of their value propositions. Bitcoin, because it's Bitcoin, right? Monero, because of its privacy features. I look at, Monero as the equivalent of handing cash to somebody in a dark room that nobody knows it happened, right? It's beautiful, that kind of privacy behind money. And of course, Ethereum as a long-term hold because I'm just seeing it's just this creating this absolute value transfer network, this data transfer network that is
yeah,
unparalleled right now in its network effect.
railroads.
And every day, exactly, it's the railroads. And every day, the Ethereum network's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and leaving the competitors farther and further behind.
Yeah, Ethereum is definitely building all the railroads right now. Again, the infrastructure is so important. And then looking at these second layer application functions and how we can build to turn them into viable products that people actually enjoy fucking using. That's where this game starts to take
Yep.
off, and then where you have a seamless relationship between, say, buying on the traditional, like if you could buy Tesla on top of the blockchain, transfer base, right? Can you log in without being an accredited investor? Can you make mistakes? Like, how do we regulate a global economy? These are all fascinating questions that I think in times of crisis also get pushed through more quickly because legislation just can't keep up with the progress that the tech sector is making with strides in the background. The politics are busy with a bunch of other shit right now. They're
They're
not even
always
paying
years
attention to what we're
behind. They're
building.
years behind on
Yeah,
technology.
they're paying attention to the pandemic for the next 5 years. Whatever the fuck we build, they won't even know that it happened. like, wait, what is this? No, it's so. I think the last thing I wanted to state there was just we started with a kind of a financial education. One of the things I wish I would have known when I was younger is just keep investing, just
Oh
always
yeah.
keep investing, and try to build that layer. Things are liquid to if you need to, if you like for medical bills or to build a new company or to pay off your debts or something. Whatever it might be, that you get to choose with discretion how you build, but just keep doing it and be very, very patient because most of the good things take like 15-20 years. The more you keep stepping up to the window, the more when you're there the window will like open. You're like, oh yeah, because it has to do with timing. You could have the perfect product at the wrong time. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. So you just got to keep showing up and keep showing up with a smile on your face so they don't get angry at everyone along the way of like failure, because it's like 90, it's a good chunk of failure before you get the successes. Like I remember a few times when I was first starting my businesses, like almost ripping my hair out, like I wanted to cry. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I could just be working like a normal job. Like those early days, working
It's a challenge.
10.
Entrepreneurship is not for the faint-hearted by any means. And you just made such a great point. I think that's a great place to close on. Just be in the markets, get in the markets, stay in the markets. Be continually investing. There's this great book I've just started reading. I haven't got very far in it, but it's Atomic Habits, and the idea is that just a little bit, 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 and before you know it, you've completely changed your life and revolutionized everything. And this is, again, we can take it back to the life portfolio. So if you're not feeling great about, I don't know, your physical health right now, start working out a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and you'll build up over time to get to that position, right? And we talk about investing financially, right? A little bit. You might say, oh, I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of cash coming in. I don't know if I can invest. You invest that little bit of cash every week. You got an extra $50 a week where you're putting that $50 in, whether you're buying Bitcoin or whether you're buying gold or whether you're throwing it into some stocks or index funds, whatever you might be doing, or saving towards, I don't know, going in on real estate or something at some point in the future. Whatever it is you're doing, be investing, and be building that future that you want to see, because it's all possible. We have this life of incredible opportunity, and if you can step by step put that together, you will achieve those goals. But it doesn't happen overnight. So many people out there chasing around, I'm going to get rich overnight. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Go to the casino, go play lottery. Your chances of getting rich are about as good there as they are just throwing, assuming that you're going to get rich overnight. So it's a slow, patient game, but it will pay off, and there is incredible opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great discipline to have in life, just adding consistency, and it's a lot. You just get further because you're not concerned with where you are today. You're like, "No, great, I made a little bit of progress. That's all that needs to be done." It's not this hasty attitude to rush to the end of the game. You give yourself 10 or 20 years to play that idea out in your mind, and it compounds into huge amounts of success. It's just about finding consistency and surrounding yourself with people that you can, I guess, basically be consistent and keep working with.
That's right. People who'll push you to be better. That's I think a key thing. Tio, man, this has been an awesome conversation. To anyone who's stuck around to the end, congratulations. I hope you got a great amount of value out of this chat. So again, there's a link down below to Tio's newsletter. So definitely do check that out. A lot of great value in that newsletter. So definitely have a look at that. And Tio, man, thanks for coming on, having a chat today.
Yeah, Lark, you're a god among men. It's one of my favorite crypto channels. I mean, I don't want to sound too pious saying that. I really appreciate you as a friend. I'm so stoked to be able to chat with you and see you again. It's been a while, so thank you for making such a lovely evening for me.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Ciao, brother.